Brynn, a moment. I'm collecting data, surveying the team, so to speak. One question is all I need answered. Do you think Ava deserves a share in any rewards for the work undertaken by the Weaver Band?
Oh, absolutely. She might even end up being named point over me if she keeps it up.
I think it stretches the bounds of credibility to suggest that we could weave a mantle big enough for her.
You think so?
Yes, that'll be all. Thank you for your time.
Oh. I mean, if you wanted a real answer, then I suppose so. It's probably something Kasmin would have a better answer for.
I'll go ask her next then. Note to self, refine census questions. Hallowed Pyre rise. Religious beliefs from across the Maida were practiced in the Enclave. But the Church of the Hallowed Pyre values monuments. They regularly erect temples and shrines.
To better spread their influence.
Why else would a religion invest in property?
This temple has seen better days.
The high pyre remains intact, though. Built to last.
Should be a drop somewhere around here. Let's see. Supplies. That's good. More orders. Huh.
What's up?
Drops will be assigned to specific teams and tracked individually to deal with recent concerns.
That's boss talk for we're watching you because someone had their hand in the cookie jar.
According to the old maps, that path leads to the Bastion, their military strongholds. This must be the Bastion.
A large military was never the Enclave's priority. They did not aspire to conquest. Instead, they focused on defense. Their core interest was protecting not only their civilians, but their cutting-edge innovations. soldiers could see for leagues from vigilant falls, the patrollers would easily spot incoming attacks.
Far jump, even for you.
Too bad I don't have wings.
Feathers wouldn't suit your face. Lane, any idea what that pillar is?
I did find a reference to the Trial of Fires, a rite of passage for new Bastion Sworn before they could cross over to their new life.
Crossing over? Trial of Fires? Unsubtle. Brynn, what happens if you make it hot? Nice work.
Pretty involved. Still, you'll have no trouble when it's your turn to head back out in the field.
Yeah. Be sure to scour the Bastion.
This must be where the military stored supplies and weapons before the surge. Listen, Enclave soldiers would have slept here during training. Private chambers, perhaps belonging to the Bastion's commander.
A letter to the commander from Khan Stanild. He signed his title beneath the I. Times have necessitated an information blackout. The cause of the casualties must be purged from even the Bastion's most secure records. Furthermore, military personnel are to be separated from civilians, unless facilitating the evacuation from Denevron. If word of the problem's true severity spreads across the populace, panic will be uncontrollable. It is imperative that Asylum succeeds.
Paints a stark picture.
Asylum? What could that be?
Scour the rest of the keep and find out.
key swatch. There's a note with it. It says, Commander, it's ready. Use the harness to execute asylum.
Another key swatch. Wonder if it will lead us to whatever the harness is.
Only one way to find out.
The key swatch is exciting, but it feels like there is more to discover about Asylum here in the Bastion.
Agreed. I'll keep looking.
The keep housed the Enclave's war room. Matters of high security were discussed inside. Looks like a war room.
Looks like the recorded minutes of the meetings that took place here. The last one is dated roughly 26 years ago.
What was it about?
A lot of information was torn off. Casualties got too high due to something they blotted over with ink. And the military commander should execute a defensive measure called Asylum. Some sort of access beneath the keep.
military workshop for enchanters.
The Enclave never used magic to expand its borders, but had to defend itself.
Against nations that thought otherwise.
Exactly.
Research notes from about 40 years ago, probably from an enchanter that worked here. Observing arc degradation. Looks like there was an expected and normal amount of degradation observed in the arcs following the surge. But once the arcs start killing civilians, it says, this is a systemic failure. What could that mean?
It means the Arcs weren't sent to attack us as a means of defense.
They've lost control over them.
A final note scrawled on the cover page. The Archons will be no use in Asylum's execution.
Brynn, all these documents you've collected, I might be able to piece together what Asylum is if you find out where that key swatch leads.
That's my next move, then. Should be a drop somewhere around here. Another notice. Drops must be completed and all runners to safety before the next predicted flood.
This confirms they have a way to predict the floods, and some way to stay safe.
Let's stay focused on our runners for now. That's all of them.
3 supply drops. Not a lot of answers.
I believe I can help with that.
After the surge, no one was even sure that anyone inside the Veil survived. Yet, clearly, they've been here in dire straits this entire time. Why didn't they lower the Veil to seek help? Surely a few broken arcs isn't what stopped them.
These weavers had to make choices for their own survival since the surge. And they succeeded. Whatever their reasons are for keeping the Veil active, we shouldn't judge them too harshly for it.
I agree completely. Still... Never mind. It's silly.
Can't help but wonder what life might have been like if they'd lowered the Veil.
Not just for them, but for all of us. No matter who you were or where you came from, the Enclave could be your home. After the surge, Weavers didn't just lose the Enclave. We were outcasts in every nation. Not that I need to tell you that. You sacrificed a lot to become a Weaver. The Veil served as a constant reminder that magic was the source of all the world's problems. A convenient scapegoat for every failed leader. And Weavers were an acceptable casualty. And the Hearthsiders just left it there.
So we need to find out why. Do you read a lot of Scald's Tales, Kaz?
I do, as a matter of fact. When I can find a transcription. But I'll read just about anything I can get my hands on.
Any favorite storytellers?
Eloisa Farthing. She's a local writer back home. Actually, a lot of her stories are set in Brynn. That's what I like about them. No matter where I am in the world, I can curl up with passages describing our rainy summers or stormy winters. And it's like I'm home.
That's beautiful. Though the weather in Brynn sounds terrible.
It is. What about you? Are you much of a reader?
Of course. Nothing better than curling up with a book by the fire.
Huh. Somehow I wouldn't have guessed.
I think it brings me back to my childhood, too. Not a lot happened in my hometown, so I spent a lot of my time reading or listening to stories from travelers and veterans.
Any favorite books?
Ooh, hard to choose. But maybe The Perennial Skirmish by L.M. Saunton. A fictionalized retelling of Carnhaven's fight for independence from the perspective of an Oberon teenager whose parents are lost in the war.
I haven't heard of it. I'll add it to my list. Sola, Lane, and I have something of an informal book club on the go. We can give you recommendations.
Good to know. I'm surprised Dom isn't involved in that too.
He was, but his invitation was rescinded. The three of us would like to maintain a soothing mood during our meetups. He got too excited and spilled red wine on the pages of our first read, so...
I see.
An expected abnormal amount of degradation in the aftermath of the surge.
Looking over the notes from the Bastion.
Dated almost 40 years ago, contemporaneous with the surge. The enchanter who created the notes was quite junior. Most people who had actually designed arcs had died in the surge, it seems.
The best we have is a novice's musings?
The observations appear accurate, and the enchanter was careful not to draw any ill-founded conclusions. But good methodology cannot replace experience. It makes sense now that the Enclave lost control of their own constructs.
If we could help the Hearthsiders get on their feet, do you think they could regain control of the arcs?
Anyone who knew anything about the Ark's core design is long dead. A particularly innovative enchanter might have some luck with minor malfunctions, but the Arks aren't simply shut down or stumbling blindly in fields they once farmed. They've become violent, presumably even against their creators, and that won't be solved by something as simple as reapplying their grease.
There's no hope of regaining control.
With enough dedication, time, and research, anything is possible, but it won't be easy. Don't stay your blade just yet.
The arc we followed through the Veil wasn't hostile. Any new ideas on what makes it different?
No new leads. Maybe we'll uncover more as you continue to explore Denevran, but we do know our little friend is quite resilient to magic in general. That certainly could have contributed.
The letters were untouched, but the Eye blotted out a lot of information from other documents I collected in the Bastion. Do you think the Enclave's leader was trying to hide the Ark hostility from his own people?
I'm not sure how you could hide the fact that constructs taller than a building have gone on a rampage. Still, in times of crisis, paranoid governments have tried to bury all manner of scandals. And the Enclave certainly seems paranoid.
I guess there's still a lot of Arks smashing in my future.
For the time being, at least. Unfortunate.
Yeah. If we can't use them to farm, they make great scrap.
Relegating the Enclave's premier innovation to scavenged parts isn't a victory we should be celebrating.
It's something.
You know, I'm a little surprised to see a Hallowpire temple take such pride of place in Denevran.
What do you mean?
I'd always envisioned the Enclave to be a little more progressive. At least compared to Renland, where I'm from. The Church of the Hallowed Pyre has a tight grip on the populace there, to say the least. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with religion, of course. I'm not going to proclaim myself an authority. It's simply that my personal experiences with that religion were quite negative. As was their view on magic in general.
Yes, and if the R is with the numbers of false increment that just indicates spaces. Ah!
Got it?
Yes. I'll translate all that we have and we can discuss it with Casmin.
Good stuff, Lane. We need all the information we can get.
And valuable insight into post-surge society that developed here.
Well, Codebreakers, how are we feeling?
Satisfied. We have enjoyed reasonable success.
That's Lane's way of saying they crushed it.
Notes being passed between a brother and sister, quite candid, and dissatisfied. In particular with their boss, who they refer to as the Grumple.
The Grumple?
A Renland myth, where ill-behaved children would be gathered up in a sack and tossed into the river to drown at the end of the year.
Bye.
The Grumple, yes. Renland fables prominently feature drowning as a punishment for children. The myth has fallen out of favor in recent decades, though. Ren society is less forgiving of flights of fancy.
The Grumple. Really?
Really.
Moving swiftly on. What else did the drop say?
Remember that ominous note about tracking individually in specific teams?
From the context provided by our hauler, we now know a significant number of Hearthsiders survived the surge.
But only just surviving. They relied on the runner-hauler teams. But supplies consistently went missing. There is also a sense that the Enclave was getting increasingly dangerous for the scouts.
The floods, of course.
With supplies running thin, the supply teams were falling under suspicion of stealing.
This pair responded with the entirely reasonable, if exhausting, plan of overperforming.
I've done that job, Lane. Sometimes you just need to prove the ass in charge wrong.
Indeed. They collected a cache of rare items they were planning to turn in when they felt its size and value would erase any suspicion.
Do we know if they turned it in?
No, but we know what it was. Or is.
And that's where I come in. All this light stone is reflecting the heat.
It would be so much worse if it were absorbing it.
Careful using flame here. Anything flammable will ignite and spread far too easily.
Everything all right?
Yeah. There's just so much. Oh. And a letter. Encoded like the others.
Can't wait to work it out.
So, the letter. I'm prepared for bad news.
How did you know?
They were collecting supplies for other survivors. We know someone is out there. The supplies never made it to them. That, and the tear stains.
Is that what that was? Yes, well, there's a lot to cover. We have the cache itself and our scrounging siblings.
We should at least give you the high-level details on both. Where do you want to start?
Talk to me about the supplies.
They did astonishing work. If I weren't sure they're both gone, I'd hire them.
Indeed, a robust collection, including several enchanted objects we barely recognize.
They had a keen eye for things that could decay and took care to preserve them.
You two sound giddy.
If there's one thing Lane and I are passionate about, it's preservation of rare objects.
Were there any hints of more of these?
As far as we can tell, this was it. Their motherlode.
It's impressive one runner could gather this much, frankly.
Have you been working your magic, Casmin?
Obviously. Thank you for bringing everything back so carefully.
Anything of note?
Yes, but let's save that until we've done the other questions.
Mysterious. That's enough about the cache.
Sure.
What did the final note say?
Yes, right. It was a farewell. One sibling disappeared. The runner.
I thought the runner of the pair was the one we found.
So did we. But this last message was a farewell to his sister. Apparently the Grumpole...
Really?
I know. But apparently their boss had been ordered to stop wasting resources on the search.
And so our hauler left this farewell, hoping his sister might find it, on the off chance she was alive.
He was going to remove all their other messages so their plan wouldn't be found out.
We postulate he was on his way to do that, when...
When the flood caught him.
These people, however many are left, they've really been through it.
They might really need our help.
They're still organized and have a command structure, but it sounds dysfunctional.
Is there anything we could do you think?
Sadly, no. But their story will live on in our chronicle.
Did we confirm they weren't actually stealing from the Enclave?
The letter seems genuine. I think their plan was to bring in a big haul.
It says a lot about the Hearthsiders that our siblings thought this would clear any suspicion.
How so?
The cloud of suspicion tells us they were in dire times, tightening the screws on their own people.
But bring in a big load and we trust you. Doesn't that sound a little like a bribe?
So you think our runners were dirty?
No. I think the system's dirty, and they're just stuck working through it.
I'm not going to say the name, but do we have any sense of who was giving their orders?
The Enclave's leader was called the Eye, a first of firsts, after a fashion. Elected from the masters of each craft, the High Smith, High Enchanter, and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any details about their direct superior. I will spare you the name.
Let's move on to something else.
Of course.
So, where do we go from here?
We're not sure. It's something of a dead end. It is a win. We have restocked a number of very rare supplies, including enchanting supplies we don't have any immediate use for, but they'll be worth keeping.
For study, if nothing else.
I suppose the only other thing to say is, good job, Brynn.
Indeed. We have made progress in unraveling the shape of what the post-Surge society looks like in the Enclave. Further, these documents are invaluable to the historical record.
And maybe you put a couple souls to rest. Not to be sentimental.